I want to get reaction to all of today's developments. We're joined now by Louisiana's Republican Senator John Kennedy. Senator, thanks so much for joining us. 100 days into President Trump's term, just 41% approve of the job he's doing in our new CNN poll, and just 37% approve of Republicans leading Congress. Are those serious warning signs for your party?
I think, Wolf, that the American people have been unhappy at least for 10 years. That's why President Trump was elected the first time. They weren't happy rather under President Biden, in part because of inflation, and their unhappiness continues. We'll see what happens over the next year. In terms of the president's first 100 days, it's hard to find the honey in the rock and the water in the stone in 100 days. But having said that, I think President Trump's done some things right in his first 100 days. He's secured the border. He's been very aggressive in abolishing racial quotas. He's deregulating the economy, getting rid of rules and regulations. He's changed the national conversation about the federal budget. He and Mr. Musk. Under President Biden, the conversation or the question was, who needs to pay more in taxes? Now, thanks to Trump and Musk, I think the question in Washington and elsewhere is what the hell happened to the money? The final point I would make, you may find a little strange, but it has to do with Europe. President Trump, as we all know, exists loudly. And his loud existence has awakened Europe with respect to its economy and its national defense, national security. We're seeing dramatic changes there, and I think it's possible that a decade from now, the Europeans, they may not say it, but they'll look back and actually thank Trump for awakening them from their economic and national security slumber.
We'll see how that unfolds. Senator, the American public isn't very happy with what's described as unified Republican control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. Right now, 58% say it's bad for the country. How is your party, the Republican Party, going to change that?
I think, well, first, I think the American people have been unhappy with Congress for a long time. As long as I can remember, Congress is polled right up there with robocalls with the American people. Here's what I think will be meaningful in the next 3 months. We have a plan to lower prices. Number one, it's called the reconciliation bill, which is just a budget bill. In that bill, we're going to reduce spending, which will help to lower prices. Number two, we're going to continue to deregulate the economy. Rules and regulations cost about $2 trillion a year, which increases the price of goods and services. And number three, we're going to try to redesign the tax code so that it'll look like somebody designed it on purpose and increase wages at the same time so that people can tolerate these high prices. If we do that, I think the American people will recognize our progress.
You talk about people tolerating these high prices. As you know, critics of President Trump's tariff strategy have said that this is a tax on Americans. Just 35% approve of President Trump's strategy. Do you buy the White House line that the chaos around the president's trade war is simply, quote, strategic uncertainty, or do you think that's just an excuse?
I don't know, Pamela, I don't know. Here's what I think about tariffs. Tariffs represent an intervention by a government. It's a government intervening in the free exchange of goods and services. Now, it's not a newsflash that many foreign countries, including but not limited to China, have used tariffs and trade barriers for years to disadvantage the American worker and the American economy. President Trump decided to try to do something about it. He basically got up and said, I want everybody to say hello to my little friends. and he jacked up tariffs, American tariffs, and half the valley shook. But then a strange thing happened. I thought that other countries would bow up and we'd enter into a trade war. Instead, many other countries have said no mas. They've said, okay, we want to lower our trade barriers, but you've got to lower yours, America. And I think that's a good thing. I think our goal here ought to be to lower trade barriers and tariffs on both sides. Now, it's been very disruptive, and I don't know how it's going to turn out, but that's the way I analyze what's going on. The president has given several different interpretations of his intentions with respect to tariffs. I don't know how much of that is negotiating, but that's the way I see it anyway, Pamela.
Okay, just very quickly, I want to ask you about the war in Ukraine. And Wolf, I know you might have a question, but do you think Trump is allowing himself to get played by a master manipulator? I know you told Fox News over the weekend that Putin has reneged on every promise he's made to President Trump.
Well, Putin has. I think what I said this weekend was that Putin thinks America has taken the bullet train to Chumptown. I think he's disrespected our president. What I hope the president does is apply the same pressure to Putin that he has applied to Ukraine in getting a peace deal. Putin's got to understand that in order to get him to make concessions, that we're willing to slap him to Pluto. I don't mean that in terms of a war. I mean that in terms of economically. Right now, Europe and America are allowing Putin to sell his oil so long as he doesn't get more than $60 a barrel. A third of his revenues come from oil sales. We need to ratchet down those sanctions and starve him out on his oil if we're going to get an honorable peace in Ukraine, in my opinion. And I hope the president gets a lot tougher.
All right, Senator Kennedy, thank you so much.
Thank you.